Well, Friday turned out to be a busy day for Canada's Immigration Minister. Sean Fraser started the day announcing new measures which the government says will be good for more than 500,000 foreign students in Canada, as well as for the Canadian economy. And then came the announcement of the ban under Canada's immigration laws of up to 10,000 people associated with the Iranian regime. Well, joining me now to discuss all of that is the Immigration Minister, Sean Fraser. Minister Fraser, thanks for taking the time.
A pleasure to be with you, as always. Thank you for having me.
Okay, well, let's start with this announcement by the Prime Minister. These sanctions, the majority of the measures are under the Immigration Refugee Protection Act. Prime Minister says they will prevent up to 10,000 members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps from ever entering Canada. That's under your legislation. Can you tell us any more about how that will work?
Yeah, I can. So this is not an often used provision of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. We've been looking for different ways we can respond to demonstrate just how seriously we're taking not only the recent events surrounding the death of Mahsa Amini, but the repression of women and the acts of terrorism committed by the Iranian government in the past, the shooting down of Flight PS 752. So we got to work to try to identify the different strategies we could employ to demonstrate that we're taking this issue seriously and are prepared to deny entry to potentially in excess of 10,000 senior officials, not just with the IRGC. One of the strengths of the approach that we've taken is that we have the ability to loop in senior officials in the entire Iranian regime for this extraordinary gross and violation of human rights and terrorist activity.
Okay. Briefly, though, why did it take so long, and why did you choose this method and not declaring them a criminal terrorist organization under the criminal code?
Well, when you look at the powers that are available under the criminal code, there's some potentially very severe consequences for people who are not complicit with the IRGC's bad actions over many years. There's actually Iranian Canadians who are in Canada today that could potentially be connected to people who were conscripted into the IRGC. If you list members of the IRGC under the criminal code, it has the potential to render inadmissible family members who could be in Canada today who have nothing to do with the IRGC. The strength of the approach that we've chosen to take allows us to render inadmissible significant numbers of people across the regime, including within the IRGC, but it also allows me to create public policies to carve people out of such a designation if they are people who were not complicit, if they're human rights defenders who were conscripted into the IRGC who may have actually deserted. It's a more nimble approach. It's actually more broad-based in terms of its implications for members of the Iranian regime who are actually bad actors. Okay,
another question. A lot of people close to your organization, close to the bureaucracy, close to the government, have suggested that Canada is at sanctions overload, that we don't have the resources to screen and investigate and stop and deal with this many people. What's your thoughts on that?
One of the things that we do in order to monitor who's coming into Canada from countries that require a visa is use biometrics data. It's actually a fairly efficient process, and the advantage that we have is we have extraordinary partnerships with allies around the world who are able to identify people who belong to different troublesome regimes or organizations. The United States Department of National Defense is a good example. There's no perfect system, though. We have to get to work to do what we can to have a razor-sharp focus on how these measures are going to apply. And then we intend to use our admissibility screening process, including the use of biometrics whenever a person will be seeking to enter Canada, to try to catch the people who are rendered inadmissible as a result of the decision that the Prime Minister's announced earlier today. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that we prevent the entry of some of these bad actors from Canada. My apologies. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's it. No, that's fine. I want to, because we're running out of time, I want to give you time for the other subject. I mean, this is amazing. Two large announcements today. The other subject you announced today was up to 500,000 foreign students in Canada will now be able to work potentially much, much longer. They were limited to 20 hours a week of work off campus, except during the summer and the winter holidays. You now made a decision. You're going to allow up to 500,000 students work a lot more. Tell us about that and why it took so long.
Look, this is a really important decision that we've taken today. Canada has had one of the strongest economic recoveries from COVID-19. We recently hit our lowest all-time unemployment rate, but we still have, a few months ago, almost 1 million empty jobs in Canada. You can't walk down Main Street of any community without seeing a help wanted sign. We've got 500,000 international students who have had a limit on the number of hours that they can work at 20 hours. This is a simple and intelligent solution that makes it easier for these 500,000 people to fill gaps in the labor force. This is not just a policy that benefits international students. This is a policy that benefits businesses in our communities that are going to help grow the economy. This is the right kind of decision we should be taking. We're going to have it in effect beginning November 15th through to the end of 2023 to see what the impacts are going to be. We'll keep a laser focus on the labor market dynamics, but we're going to learn a lot from what happens once we have real world data that explains how students adjust and how businesses make use of this new announcement.
Okay, great, because you leave the door open to that. Obviously, we'll watch watch the uptake on that and see how many people avail themselves of these new rules. I want to thank you very much for speaking with us on both subjects.
A pleasure as always. Thank you so much for having me.